Hi everyone, my name is Alexi Hawker and I will be presenting Classroom Compass. Classroom Compass is a curated resource hub designed to provide free, high-quality tools and materials for K-12 teachers. I completed this project using an agile approach over a 5-week timeline with a fixed $30,000 budget. I served as the sole project manager and worked directly with the CEO of Common Sense Media as the project sponsor throughout the process. The main goal of this project was to create a structured and easy-to-navigate online hub that brings together free educational resources for teachers. Instead of building new tools from scratch, the focus was on finding, organizing, and evaluating high-quality existing materials to make it easier for teachers to access what they need all in one place. The project had two main constraints: a strict 5-week timeline and a fixed $30,000 budget. Because of these limitations, I chose to use an agile approach. Agile allowed me to stay flexible, check in regularly with the sponsor, and adjust priorities as needed while keeping the project within scope and on track. In week 1, I focused on project initiation by finalizing the project charter, confirming the scope, identifying key stakeholders, and aligning expectations with the sponsor. Week 2 was centered around resource identification and prioritization. I built a structured backlog of potential tools and evaluated them based on relevance, quality, and accessibility to make sure the most valuable resources were included. During week 3, I worked on developing the site structure and organizing the curated content into clear, logical categories by grade level and subject to improve usability and navigation. Week 4 was dedicated to testing and gathering sponsor feedback. This was an important iteration point where I made adjustments based on alignment discussions and usability improvements. Finally, week 5 focused on refinement, securing final approval, and completing project closeout. Throughout execution, I relied on key planning tools such as the project charter, the work breakdown structure, RAID log, budget tracking, and regular stakeholder feedback cycles to keep everything organized and on track. The main deliverable for this project was the fully structured Classroom Compass resource hub. It included organized and categorized free tools for teachers, a content framework that was reviewed and approved by the sponsor, and documented plans for managing risk throughout the project. In terms of results, the project was completed on schedule and stayed within the $30,000 budget. Even with the short 5-week timeline, I was able to keep scope under control, and the regular agile feedback cycles did help keep the sponsor engaged and aligned the entire time. Most importantly, the end result is a scalable framework that could realistically be expanded and built on in the future. The 5-week timeline required disciplined execution. Each week had clearly defined objectives, and tasks were prioritized to ensure that high-impact components were completed first. Because of the limited time frame, I focused on delivering a minimum viable product by week 4, which allowed time for iteration and refinement in week 5. This approach minimized last-minute risk and ensured the feedback was incorporated before final delivery. The total project budget was $30,000, the largest allocation being platform and technical setup at $10,000, followed by $8,000 for content research and curation. Testing and quality review were allocated $4,000, and $3,000 was designated for project management oversight. Importantly, I built in a $5,000 contingency reserve to account for potential risk or change requests. The project was delivered within budget, and contingency funds were preserved due to proactive forecasting and strict scope management. This demonstrates effective cost control and financial planning throughout the project lifecycle. The work breakdown structure was essential for organizing the project into more manageable components. It divided the work into 9 major phases, those being initiation, feedback, resource curation, platform development, execution, testing, risk management, documentation, and last being the closeout. Breaking the project into those smaller tasks allowed me to track progress clearly, assign priorities, and avoid scope creep. The work breakdown structure also supported accurate budget allocation and timeline management because each work package had defined deliverables. One of the biggest challenges was the tight 5-week timeline. To overcome this, I used agile sprints and prioritized high-value deliverables first. Another challenge was scope control. Because the project involved educational resources, it would have been easy to continuously add more tools. I addressed this by clearly defining curation boundaries in the charter and sticking to approved criteria. Stakeholder alignment was another key challenge. Weekly sponsor feedback sessions did ensure expectations remained aligned and prevented large-scale revisions later. Finally, budget risk was addressed by building in contingency funds and tracking projected costs early rather than waiting until the end. For this project, I really tried to stay ahead of risk instead of just reacting to problems as they came up. Some of the biggest risks I identified were taking on too much content, potential delays with the platform setup, sponsor change requests, and just not having enough time for revisions at the end. To manage that, I focused on getting a minimum viable version done early so we had something solid to review. I also made sure any changes went through a structured process so scope didn't solely expand without realizing it. I also built in contingency funds from the start so there was financial flexibility if something unexpected came up. Because I documented these risks early in the RAID log, I was able to stay organized and avoid major disruptions later on. If my sponsor asked whether I could deliver a nearly identical project next month with only half the budget, my response would be yes, but with trade-offs. Reducing the budget to $15,000 would require a lot of scope adjustments. I would likely narrow the number of curated resources, limit grade level coverage, reuse templates and structural frameworks from this project, and reduce review cycles. With that said, this does reflect the project management triangle. When cost decreases, either scope, quality, or timeline must adjust. My recommendation would be to reduce scope strategically rather than compromise quality. That ensures the final product still meets stakeholder expectations while remaining financially realistic. Overall, this project really demonstrates how I applied Agile in a structured way while also staying disciplined within the budget and being proactive about managing risk. It also shows how much I've grown in balancing real constraints like time, scope, and cost while still keeping stakeholder expectations aligned. Classroom Compass was delivered on time and within budget, and it's designed in a way that could realistically be expanded in the future. Overall, this capstone wasn't just about completing a project, it was more about actually applying project management principles in a practical, structured way and seeing them work. Thank you so much for listening.